the IDF is now rounding up prisoners. Unclear who they are. The IDF claims that some of them, at least, are Hamas fighters. There have been, that is a controversial claim. Nevertheless, they're stripped down to their underwear. I mean,
how would Israel react if, say, Hamas did that to captured IDF soldiers? Would they be like, "Oh, that's cool. They're just it's just rules of war"?
I mean, never mind how Israel would react. I mean, how would this country react to any other images like that in any other context?
Yeah.
Although we had Abu Ghraib, and
exactly,
but at least right, but that's
at least
like
it
the
was
reaction.
a scandal. Yeah, I mean, at least it was a scandal. Yeah. And now we're watching this, and it's full blown, and we're just supposed to be like, nah. Yeah. I mean, it's really. And
the scale of it too, or the intensity in just over 2 months of, like, again, at least 17,000 dead, 46,000 wounded, and like most of the hospitals in Gaza are shut down at this point.
I mean, what percentage is hungry?
I read yesterday and the reports of like an account from a doctor who spoke to the Independent in the UK of maggots in wounds and dressings not being changed on toddlers who have severe burns for days and days on end, and creating that kind of infection, just to give a sense of like how the violence, as I've repeatedly been saying recently, does not stop at the death toll. That is like the floor of the violence and destruction we're seeing.
And then there's this, this writer, Rifat Al-Arir, gained some acclaim because he made what was a gross joke about a hoax that or I don't know, you would call it a hoax because hoax implies sort of funny, but a hoax that there were reports from some that Hamas fighters had basically baked alive an Israeli baby in an oven.
Yeah, reports that Israeli journalists later said were not to be taken seriously.
Exactly, and he made a joke, an off-color joke. Bari Weiss, who kicked off her career as a student in Colombia by trying to get professors who were Palestinians fired from that university, and then went on to complain about college students supposedly censoring speech, I should say. She highlighted this joke and broadcast it much further than it would have gone anyways. And subsequently, and we know by the writing in 972 MAG, the Israeli government has been targeting journalists and professors and others. This is a clip of Rifat Al-Arir on the Electronic Intifada podcast. This is from about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, almost to the day. This is what he had to say then, as the Israelis were gearing up for their assault on Gaza, and he was talking about, what do the Israelis expect us to do when they keep us in this open air prison? Not necessarily, obviously, supporting the specifics of what happened on October 7th, but I think talking about the idea of, do you expect us to have no resistance?
We know that it's very bleak, it's very dark. There's no way out. If there's no water, there is no way out of Gaza. What should we do? Like drown? Like commit mass suicide? Is this what Israel wants? And we're not going to do that. And I was telling some friend the other day that I'm an academic. Probably the toughest thing I have at home is an expo marker. But if the Israelis invade, if they target us, charge at us, open door to door to massacre us, I'm going to use that marker, throw it at the Israeli soldiers, even if that is the last thing that I would be able to do. And this is the feeling of everybody. We are helpless. We have nothing to lose.
He was obviously doing that podcast with the bombing of Gaza taking place. He was killed yesterday, perhaps the day before, in bombing in Gaza, in the wake of him saying an off-color joke.
Yeah, and he himself tweeted on October 30th, if I get killed by Israeli bombs or my family is harmed, I blame Bari Weiss and her likes. Many maniacal Israeli soldiers already bombing Gaza take these lies and smears seriously, and they act upon them. And other reporters have said that he got calls that made him leave one location to another location, and the other location that he left to was then bombed, so he's murdered.
Yeah, he apparently left the school, I think was the first location, right, to not endanger students.
And I mean, the school, I mean, I watched, you can watch his lectures online. He's, it's something else to hear a guy like engage students in Gaza about poetry in English. And yeah, to see him get killed is, it's unbearable. He, I
mean, and then it wasn't just him that was killed.
Yeah.
It was many members of his family, apparently, including his brother and sister, and her children as well. His poem. I mean, do we have it? I feel like maybe we should read it, just because he posted it. I just sent it there on November 1st. He said, and it was called, if I must die, let it be a tale. He said, if I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no one farewell, not even his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale. So people are recirculating that poem after his death.
This is, a relentless onslaught that we are, as a nation, at least partially funding. And, I don't know if Joe Biden said tomorrow, stop, and we're pulling all the weapons, if Israel would stop, but I suspect they would. But even if they weren't, it's the attempt. There's no other attempt being made to stop Israel from doing it.
I mean, John Kirby is out here saying, of course, Israel doesn't target anyone who's, anything less than a Hamas fighter. It's ultimately disgusting.
The good news is Secretary Blinken has said that he is concerned that Israel is not protecting civilians, which, if you think I'm reporting this from a month ago, would, it would be understandable, because he said the exact same thing a month ago.
Yeah, he just keeps repeating it with such passive language, as if it's not ongoing. And the atrocities on October 7th were actions taken, and we need to consistently re-traumatize ourselves and remember that, so we can only treat the continued bombardment and the deaths of tens of thousands of Palestinians and the continuation of it with passivity.
He's running errands for the ethnic cleansing. He's using American planes to go ask Arab leaders in the region, hey, can you take these Gazans? Israel doesn't want them anymore.
Yeah, it's really just, I don't know what is, there's so many different things about this that is shocking, but we'll touch on this perhaps with Alex Perrine. Of course, we'll have continuing coverage going into next week, and I don't know. In the back of my mind, I'm hoping that this, at the very least, Israel is thinking maybe Christmas, that they might somehow. I don't know. It's hard to know exactly when this onslaught will stop, because certainly Bibi Netanyahu knows that he's got a better shot of going to jail the moment the fighting stops. And so, and it also appears that, I don't know, by polling, around 80% of the Israeli population wants to flatten Gaza. So we shall see.
That's why we need to, not flatter that sort of feeling inside Israel. And when President Biden says, we of course support, and Kirby says they're not doing anything wrong, and Germany puts the Brandenburg Gate in the Israeli flag, like there's no message to anyone inside Israel that there's any kind of problem here.
And I mentioned earlier too, 13 senators, Democratic senators at this point, have come out wanting to attach an amendment to the ultimate what will ultimately be the U.S. supplemental aid package, assuming that gets passed. It would require that weapons received by any country under the proposed national security supplemental are used in accordance with U.S. law, international humanitarian law, and the law of armed conflict. Senator's amendment also requires the president to report to the Congress on whether countries receiving military equipment paid for American taxpayers meet that test, and whether use of U.S. supplied weapons comports with established presidential directives on armed transfers and Defense Department policies for reducing harm to civilians. It'll be interesting to see if that amendment is picked up by other Democrats in addition to Republicans, but we will keep you updated on that.